Another challenge that we have is that pay typically follows tenure, not capability. Capability could fall in place, but it's not actually a focus to just say we're paying based on capability.
And now they're rolling out mentorship. But my worry is with the mentorship thing, who are you actually going to get to buy into the mentorship when we can't even get the training we want or need?
I know we are understaffed and just a lot of fires being put out on a daily basis. So it's very hard to have that one-on-one mentorship.
Everybody knows what everybody else is getting paid, right? For sure. And we can't just keep this, it's not anymore a secret, right? And people talk to people all the time.
The real issue is just that we are spread too thin. We are covering areas that are too big. And the companies are not putting the emphasis on training. They want to be technical. They want to be hands-on. They want to be on site. They don't want to sit at the computer. They don't want to do emails. It's like you would hate being a regional, but you just don't know it. And because so many people have told you that's the next step.
The 39.2 maintenance turnover rates at the site level, whether this is like on the record or off the record, I think most of us agree that those numbers are way higher. I think, most of us wish those numbers will only be like in a high 30s percent. But let's just get to it. We're looking at a number which is 39.2%. And that's the number that we had from NAA. They did a survey several years ago saying that this is the annual maintenance technician turnover. As I was saying at the very beginning, I think, most of you probably here will say, I wish mine would be just 39.2% because it's a lot higher than that. Now, I think one of the main reasons why our employees leave is maybe visibility, what they could see themselves doing 3 years from now, 5 years, 10 years from now, what they could become. And I think the lack of, vision in the future, the lack of being able to envision what our future will look like, it contributes to us losing talent, sometimes to other industries. So we've been talking about shortages for over 2 decades that I've been in the industry. I've been around for 23 years. And the conversation doesn't really get any better. It's actually, the conversation stays, but then the issues we have are getting worse. Career advancement, I think it's a huge thing, right? I told to people at the site level all the time, and they're telling me like, my VP of maintenance is not leaving anytime soon. He's in his 40s. The leadership at a company sees him in a great light. I don't think he's gonna go away anytime soon. Then my only option here is to just go to another company. And I just think that's a problem that's fixable, right? They might not be able to become that VP of maintenance in the next 3 to 5 years, but a very very well built career path could lead to a lot of great opportunities for someone like that person that wants to grow with a company. 91% of frontline workers want advancement opportunities. I think, I probably agree with this number. People are looking to, to grow, to advance in their careers. Most people are, right? 20% are more likely to stay over a 1 year period if they feel they're progressing in their career. So this is another great stat here. I think I've seen as an industry us not doing a great job at defining the career paths. If we have someone that starts today with the company and says, okay, what does my future look like? If I'm gonna be around 5 or 10 years from now, how often do we actually show them before they even ask, hey, you're a groundskeeper today, but this is what you could become. When you learn ABC, you could become a punch tech. Your next, advancement opportunity is gonna be maintenance technician. And this is what you need to do in order to get to the next thing. and then so on and so forth. And I think just not having that upfront for them, it makes it really hard for them to imagine. It's kind of like, how would I say, anecdotal, right? Anecdotal. People ask around, hey, what are my opportunities? What if we just tell them upfront, hey, this is kind of what we're looking at here. This is what you could become. I'm just talking to a presentation here. I want to see you all. It feels a lot better. Presentation is not that important. It's important that we're here in the room, and then we're kind of like having a conversation here again, not me just talking at you all. One other thing that we have that the industry doesn't have like a standard for is that the titles vary, right? So some companies only have maintenance technician, and that could be like a punch, that could be a fully certified technician. Some companies have built like technician 1, 2, 3, right? So there's a true career path out there. To me, the longer the career path we build for our technicians, the better, right? The more positions we have on that particular ladder, right? So they know that there's so many other steps that they could climb, from entry level groundskeeper to like VP of maintenance. If you only have like 3 or 4, probably my opinion is not as good as having 8 or 9, right, steps to climb. At the same time, I also acknowledge that it's a lot of work to manage this process, right? To just say, we build this in 9 steps, and for each step of the way, like this is what you need to accomplish in order to like get to step 2 to step 3 and so on and so forth. At the same time, I'm just saying that technology now, especially AI technology, is here, that some of this stuff could be really automated. So maybe this is something that we as an industry, we should be considering more, creating those career paths and like more, I guess, segmented positions like technician 1, 2, and 3, as I was saying. Even the same operator, even the same operator has various titles throughout the country. And I used to work for a very large operator many years ago. Bentley, I'm going to give you the floor in just a second, as soon as I wrap up this. I used to work for a very large operator many years ago. And it's funny because some of their positions were like service manager. Another one was, maintenance supervisor, service supervisor. They eventually changed the whole thing and they make it, a standard, right? But for a very long time, or like their regional maintenance director positions were different in every part of the country. They had like different titles. That has changed, but it's helpful to just kind of have that throughout your portfolio. So Bentley, please.
Thanks, Adrian. So this is something I'm actually going through this exercise today, right? But the feedback I have so far is for myself. Well, it's very valuable. We did this for our property management team last year, and it was well received, and we've seen some good success and retention from it. But it's easy to overcomplicate it, which is what I fear that I've done, right? So I haven't launched it yet because I'm not done building it, and it's one of those finding a way to balance it so it's simple yet meaningful. Adrian, I agree with you. The more steps you can have, the better. But if going with 9 steps instead of 3 is what's preventing you from being able to launch it, maybe launch it with 3, and then in year 2 or year 3, or add a few other steps. Would just be kind of some feedback that I've kind of experienced as I'm trying this myself.
Yeah, no, that's excellent feedback. And I agree with you. I think this analysis paralysis, where we're trying to build a perfect program, prohibit us from like starting from somewhere, just saying, hey, this is what it is today. We have something which is better than nothing. Let's just turn this something into something better later on. But for right now, let's just agree that we could have something right in place. So no, I totally agree with you. Typically, another issue, another challenge that we have is that pay typically follows tenure, not capability. So you have people that are with a company long enough so they could accumulate, the races uh, over the years, but they don't necessarily get compensated for the skill. Sometimes that happens, but it's not always. So the criteria is mainly tenure, and then capability could fall in place, but it's not actually a focus to just say we're paying based on capability. Now, a little bit of adjustment could be done when you actually promote someone from like tech one to tech two, right? That's an opportunity for you as an employer to just say, here's $2 more an hour, right? Or whatever that is, because you went up. But for the most part, if you stay in the same position, or if you only have like maintenance technician position, some people could do like an incredible job, right? And they could grow very fast and provide so much more value to the company. But then the company policy says, I could only give you like between 1 and 3% a year raise. I can't do any more than that. So that actually makes people, and I learned this from personal experience too, was right when I felt like I was ready for like a different pay range. I started to look around because I knew that if I stay with my company, I could only get like 3% a year. And just for full transparency, I had situations where I changed jobs, I changed companies. Sometimes it was a lateral move, right? And I got like a 40% increase in my wage. So it's very, very hard to create retention when there's competitors in a market that offer like so much more pay than what your company offers. So this is something to think about. It doesn't mean that overnight I think we should be bumping up our wages 30-40% to just become the top paying employer. But at the same time, it's a reality that we should be aware of, right? In an era of like Indeed and internet, everybody knows what everybody else is getting paid. Right, for sure. And we can't just keep this, it's not anymore a secret, right? And people talk to people all the time. We have, groups like ours right here, outside of our every other week, meetings, we talk to each other. There's large, very large, tens of thousands of maintenance technicians are on Facebook groups that they talk to each other via like, the message boards or via private messages. Also, I'm understanding that there's some great, like very large Reddit groups where a lot of maintenance technicians. So people have access to all that information. There's no way to really gatekeep it anymore. Everything that we do, it's out in open, whether we want or not. It's kind of like we have a camera that's following us all around, and everything that we do, everything that we say is being recorded. To me, I make that assumption, right? I make that assumption that everything that I do, I'm being followed, right? So I'm basically building out in public, and I think that goes for all of us, really. There's not there's no secrets. There's no secret sauce anymore. Everything's up and open. As long as you have a private conversation with one person could take that idea, put it out on the internet, and share it with thousands, or they could, share it with a couple of friends. One of their friends takes it. So the way information circles nowadays, it's just at an incredible speed. So that's not just gatekeeping it. Is not to me like a way to keep your employees. It actually has the opposite effect. Um, Another challenge that we have is that most of our training is service manager dependent. So our technicians depend on their service manager to train them for the most part, right? I know that we have, some of you right here have, your own internal training programs. Some of you work with suppliers like HD Supply or Ferguson or Chadwell that offer classes. Some of you use resources like Interplay Learning or Grace Hill. So those are additional. But when you think about it, on a consistent basis, your technician rely heavily on the maintenance supervisor, on the service manager, and that's a weak spot out there, right? So the question is, how do we overcome that? I think I know how we could solve this partially, right? And I think technology could be like a great way to to leverage to leverage your most knowledgeable employees' knowledge and share it with others, right? Using AI and using AI agents as delivery vehicle for this type of knowledge to circulate within your group versus just waiting on a in-person, like on a human to become available. It could be very tough, right? Another challenge we have with this is that the promotion criteria are unwritten, right? So how many of you right here on a call have like set of criteria like a SOP that actually outlines to people and says how this is what it takes to get from groundskeeper to make ready to tech one to tech two to three to service man. How many of you has the whole entire thing mapped out? I think it's not from personal experience, right? I haven't seen that a lot, but I think that actually contributes to, people just operating in the dark and not knowing, look, if I don't know what to expect or how much I'm expected to do in order to climb to the next step of the ladder, I'm just operating in the dark here, right? And at the end of the day, that's not a good situation for me, right? Because imagine, like, let's just say that you go shopping, you go to the store, and you're gonna buy some biscuits, and you're gonna buy some beer, and you're gonna buy some ice cream, but there's no price tag, right? So what you gonna do? I don't think you feel great about like taking stuff from the shelf, put in your cart. Let me find out at the cashier line, how much am I gonna pay? Well, kind of the same thing goes here. Nobody wants to operate in the dark. So I'm gonna pause right here, and Tyus, I'm gonna give you the floor. And John, I see your hand up, so you're gonna be up next. Tyus, please.
How's it going, everybody? No, Adrian, you're making every great point that I've had actually brought up really recently with my own tech. He thinks he's ready for, I guess, a promotion of sorts, but he only wants to in a specific place, which means, my place, obviously wants me to move up so he can, I'm like, buddy, there's nothing to move up to. They don't want to create a northern regional up here. I'm still trying to fight for that. Um, there's no real position available for me to go to. As soon as you get to supervisor, it's basically everything goes to facilities. But facilities just kind of got started, so they have next to nothing in terms of funding, in terms of buy-in, anything. And I have tons of certifications that I've earned on my own. Everything is paid for. That they talk about doing I guess, a reimbursement or something. But I mean, I've yet to see that. Um, it's just it's a lot. It's a lot of compounding issues, honestly, with this whole debacle. And now they're rolling out mentorship. But my worry is with the mentorship thing, who are you actually going to get to buy into the mentorship when we can't even get the training we want or need?
Those are great, valid points, Tyus. And I could like spend the remaining of the hour kind of like share my thoughts on it. At the same time, again, I don't want to make this, just like an Adrian, presentation and thing. I want to get your thoughts because it's, no matter how much we think we know, there's a lot more we don't know than what we know.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
and I want to hear it from the field from you all. So, John, you're up next, and Bentley gonna be right after I see your hand up. John.
Yeah, on at our company, we do all of our trainings in-house. We do position specific trainings. We've outlined career like goals to move up to the next levels. And then we also offer our Elevate program that we train technicians into maintenance supervisors. It didn't show because it's blurry. But it's maintenance supervisor fundamentals. It's all the soft skills that they need to succeed as a supervisor beyond their hard skills that they learn in problem solving and repair, maintenance and repair, because there's a lot of soft skills that coincide with that you need as to be successful as a supervisor. And so part of their career goals to get into a supervisor role is they need to go through our supervisor fundamentals Elevate program that we have at our company. And we built out very strict or very structured program to develop our team members into supervisors. And then we have a growth plan beyond supervisor into senior supervisors and then into regional roles.
Uh, John, how much of your current program would you be able to share? Not today, but like generally speaking. Uh, I'm thinking that would be very useful to maybe like do a separate call that you do a presentation in detail or what.
Yeah, we could probably break it down. I could probably
Yeah,
put something together for you. But
yeah.
yes, we've had really good retention. I think we're actually below that 32% marker on our of turnover. Our turnover rate I think is only like 5% or less on the maintenance front.
Okay, we really need to have you present this.
In a
Okay,
year span,
like
we don't really have much.
no, we really have to have you present this. I have an interesting coming from Nicolette. And Nicolette, if you're in a position to turn the camera on and comment after Bentley, I'll love for you to. If not, I'm just gonna read your comment and I'm gonna ask the group to chime in on that. So Bentley, you're up next.
Thanks, Adrian. John, your program sounds great. I'm not surprised you're having good success with low turnover there. I wanted to address two kind of comments earlier. Tyus, you always have great comments. The issues in the industry around formalized training, right? They're real. As an industry, we've not done a great job. Adrian was talking about this earlier, about setting up consistent training and career paths for people to follow. John, you seem like you're going to be the exception rather than the rule. And I can't overstate the value of mentorship. Right? So if there is a mentorship program available, whether being a mentee or being a mentor, I highly recommend taking part in that if you're capable. The relationships that you build from that, right? You gain real knowledge or provide real knowledge, but the relationships that you gain from that are incredibly beneficial, not just for your career, but for us as people. But even some of that, if there's a chance to be mentored by someone on the leadership team or the executive team, the closer they get to the real problem, which you would help explain for them, right? Hopefully in a positive way, will help them shape the direction the company goes, which will affect and impact resources for things like training in the future. It's a slow rollout. You may never see it materialize where you are today, but much higher chance for success there. And I've found them to be very, very valuable throughout my career. So I highly encourage you to participate if possible.
Oh, I mean, personally, I got a special interest by our director just because when he came on, it was around the same time I came on. And so I just was extremely capable. I communicated exceptionally well. And every supervisor that we had on that site would be able to know that they could trust me they asked me to do something, it's a fire and forget. You don't have to worry about whether it's done or not. Tyus is on it. It's handled. And through that's when he actually started taking interest in like, okay, here, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to do this. I know this is outside of what you'd normally deal with right now, but I think it's something you need to learn. And he did take me as far as a mentorship kind of in that regards. And then now I'm doing the Leadership Lyceum, which is phenomenal, but it's still like, even with all that, I'm trying to look to, I guess, who, at least in the organization and now outside the organization, of like who can help me with that. And Guillermo's helped. He's definitely helped a lot with like business proposal stuff, like whole other side of it that I just really rough on. And as well as my own leadership, Eric, who is our regional facilities, that he's showing me a lot more of the networking side of things. And so no, mentorship, I am absolutely for it. I just don't want them to roll it out in like a poor fashion, or just, oh, we're just doing this to make it look better. They need to have it all encompassed and kind of, we have a large amount of people in asset living, so they need to have that behind it too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I've seen like programs like peer coaching mentorship programs being rolled out, and 3 months later they were dead. They were dead in a war. Nobody's talking about them because it's just they weren't thought out maybe they were thought out well, but like how do you maintain this flame? Like, and I'm just gonna use the example of our group here. I started this close to 3 years ago, right? And we had almost no one. I on the first call, I'm curious. I think if I still have the recording, probably there were a handful of people on a call. But what it takes is that to keep showing up. on this. And all I did was I kept showing up, hoping that more will resonate with what we're trying to build out here. And seems like we're on the right track. Like we have a list of close to 300 members, right? Obviously, we typically get 10, 15, 20 people on each call. And to me, that's great because all of us have like so much going on every single day. And it's hard to be able to show up every other week. For me, I can only imagine for you all, right? Being right there in middle of emergencies, phone ringing and all of that. So I'm very appreciative that we have built this group to what it is today. I still think that there's an incredible opportunity for us. I want to mention here on a call that I created a WhatsApp group, so I'm going to send like a recap email today with the little presentation that I put together. And I'm going to remind everyone, if you want to join our WhatsApp group, this is another way for us to communicate. I also wanted to say that I don't see why we wouldn't be able to become like a resource for mentorship, right? We have, Tyus is not regional level yet. He will be in no time at all. But there are others, they're site level, service managers or even technicians, they're part of the group that will love a resource, will love to have some other folks to be able to talk to, bounce off ideas and grow. And I think our group could be that we could actually be a resource, an external resource for everyone that maybe does not have a program within their company. One other thing that I'm working on, well, a couple of others, right? One of them is an initiative that is going to build an apprenticeship program that we want to scale at national level at numbers that the industry has never seen, right? We know internal programs and programs that are like led by NA or local associations had some level of success. We want to take everything that was done successfully and blow that up. Like, have thousands of graduates every single year in every single market, major market in the United States. So that's something that I'm working on. It's not public yet because, we're still working to get our IRS designation as a nonprofit, but it's happening. It's going to happen within a few months. We're gonna have that ready. I wish we had it before Apartmalize. It doesn't seem like we're gonna have it, but we will. Next thing I wanted to say, and Nicolette, I'm getting to you in just a minute. I promise. Right? I don't forget about you. One other thing, I would love for all of you that are on a call to just kind of get in touch. Here, I want to set up a time for us to meet at Apartmalize if you're going to be there, and just have our little group. Maybe get a couple of drinks, maybe get dinner one of those days. Probably like Tuesday night will be a great night for that. And the next thing is I'm currently partnering with a conference builder innovator, and they trusted me to help them build the multifamily. They call it track. They have multifamily, single family, new developments, and they trust me to help them with building the multifamily track. I brought in a couple of leaders on this conference that just happened last week, but I would love for all of you here on a call and others that aren't on a call to start considering joining our conference in October, right? There's some incredible solutions out there. We want to put out some incredible content that's relevant for the industry, for the multifamily. So you could not just participate, but also you could contribute. I would love for you to reach out and see what are some opportunities in which we could collaborate. I think it's an incredible opportunity for the facility side of the industry to have a voice at a larger scale that any other industry conference has ever built. This is incredible. They basically, the CEO of the company just entrusted me with like building this because he knows my reach on the facility side. And I'd love for all of you to reach out, and I'd love for us to like build something that's actually very meaningful, very beneficial for our industry. And by the way, all of their sessions are being recorded, like the main sessions, the panels, and they make them available later on. So for those that are really able to participate to their conferences, we will harvest that content and just use it later on, make it available for everyone. So I want to shut up right now. I'm going to let Nicolette speak and just elaborate a little bit on her previous comment. Welcome, Nicolette. Is this your first meeting with us?
Yes, it is, Adrian. Thank you guys for having me. Just want to confirm what comment, because I had a lot of comments in the chat.
Okay, this one that you said, I've seen our teams need more hands-on training to have them
Mhm.
comprehend and retrain the information. Are there any training programs providing this? You were referring to the hands-on right here, correct?
Yes. So I know we are understaffed and just a lot of fires being put out on a daily basis. So it's very hard to have that one-on-one mentorship to be able to give them the hands-on training. And I know you mentioned Grace Hill, and we have our Lowe's Pro that offers training hands-on, but it's only once a year. So we have properties all throughout Southern California and a couple out on the East Coast. So it's very hard to get everyone out for one day to be able to have a training. So I was just interested in learning more if maybe someone has a training program that we can have as a third party, and maybe do it regionally so that way we can train our techs and then we can create that career ladder as you mentioned.
Great question here, and I'll love for all of you to chime in, whether through voice or typing in resources in the comments in the chat box. I'm gonna name a few here, Nicolette. All the major MRO suppliers like Ferguson, HD Supply, Chadwell offer in-person training. Mark Kukro, which did a presentation 2 weeks ago, he did a presentation on a new refrigerants on A2Ls. He's an incredible resource. That's what he does. That's what his business does. He travels all across the country and does in-person training. So I'll encourage you, and if you want, like offline, I could share that. I don't have it handy. That's the only reason I can give it to you now. But just reach out to me, and I'll love to share that with you. I think that in person it's the most important. I totally agree with you here, but I'm going to say that the scalability of it, of the in person, is very reduced, right? We only have about one national trainer for about 2,300 employees at a national level, and that's nowhere. No, it's for 23,000 employees, not 23, which is nothing really. Like they would never be able to, with the turnover we have in the industry, they will never be able to um, put a dent in it, right? So to me, yeah, we got to encourage more people to become trainers. My future nonprofit that does this apprenticeship as skills is gonna have to ask. We're going to be asked, each one of you, if you want to become trainers, even if you never, like, taught classes, training classes. We have trainers available that volunteer that could train the trainers, right? So we're gonna build a curriculum. If you never trained, formally trained, we could actually train you to become a trainer. Uh, and I also think, Nicolette, that technology is going to play like a huge role in a way of AI agents. They're going to become the vehicle of taking that tribal knowledge and make it readily available within a company and possibly throughout the industry in the future. To my knowledge, there's no product that's being built like that, but I'm pretty sure that that's coming up. And if nobody builds it, probably I should be building it. John, please.
Yeah, my recommendation to you was with regards to your trainings. We started off initially with utilizing a lot of our vendors. MRO suppliers are great, but also a lot of the vendors that you utilize on your property will do different trainings related to the work that they do. And so we got like a lot of mitigation trainings done through our mitigation vendors, stuff like that. And you could have them do it at just like a property specific, or you could have smaller groups and they can do multiple of them. A lot of them are very open to that. If you're giving them business, they're very open to getting their name out within your employees as well. So we started with that, but then we've grown beyond that. Now we're building out from there. But that was our starting point.
That's
Right.
a great point. Plumbing companies, mitigation, yeah, electricians, they're willing to do training for free for your employees. That's a great point out there.
Thank
Um,
you, John.
I wanna give the floor to Mike Cook. Mike, welcome. I know it's your first call, and Tyus, I saw your hand up. So I wanna give the floor to Mike first, and then we'll go to you, Tyus.
So on training, so I'm spread from Michigan to Florida, all over the basically East Coast. Training is very difficult to do in person as we get to everybody together once every 2 years, for a seminar. But what we rolled out was interplay learning. I know that it is not physical hands-on, but a lot of the feedback that I've got from the site level employees have been it's a great refresher. It helps sharpen skills, those type of things. It's kind of a virtual reality to where you actually have to kind of use your hands, but with a mouse, because I know that all maintenance guys like to use their hands. I do too, but I mean, it's the next thing that we could do from being spread out clear across the country, or at least half of it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike, and I think a lot of folks here on a call resonate with that, right? A lot have a lot of geographical area to cover,
Hey,
and they're
Mike,
seeing the same challenges.
have you used the VR headsets with that?
I have not. I've just used it on the PC.
Okay, because they have like a VR headset that's supposed to be like
Yeah,
literally like hands-on. But I have not had the pleasure of testing that feature on it.
I haven't played with it on the VR. I should, but I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
Uh,
But literally, if you're doing like a dryer repair, it makes you go through every safety step, to turn the power off, step by step to do the troubleshooting techniques to it.
Tyus, you're up next, and Joel, I saw your hand up, so you're gonna be right after Tyus.
So for our training and stuff, like we do of course, Grace Hill, that's just your standardized. We also do the interplay learning, which is fantastic. That actually like where it's actively you're answering the questions and it has to be like while you're watching. You can't just click through, get to the end, click the thing, go on. You have to, pay attention. So I like that a lot. Something I did back when I was doing HVAC school with the trade school is they had that program before it started getting, I guess, Interplay was doing it. And it's basically you have to follow the step-by-step proper procedures to obviously in this like diagnose the bad condenser. You just get a little sheet as like a sticky note saying like, here's the problem, figure the problem out. And you have all this like your tool belts of all the different things that you have and all the tools at your availability. Click one, put the leads where you're supposed to. If you can't, then it doesn't give you the right read. So, like, it's very interactive. Check for debris, check for voltage, check for ohms, check for resistance. And all different parts, you had to like go back and forth inside the house, inside the garage, in the ducts, all over. It had you going all over. So, I urge partnering with local community colleges. And of course, I'm just super fortunate in the Northern Colorado area for some reason it's a hub for all these nonprofits and benefactors to put on sort of stuff like this where our local our local NAA, the NOCO Raw, they put on like actual live training while going to do fun stuff like skeet shooting. So they'll do a training and then it's trap shooting afterwards. It's pretty awesome. But definitely look for any of those, just ask your vendors that you regularly have come on site. You'd be surprised how many of them actually are willing to do a full seminar with your whole team or will go around site to site and help.
Probably even better if you have like the list of like your most used vendors, just send a blast email and say, hey, this is what we're looking for. You don't have to wait for that opportunity. If you're, corporate level, like a director or VP, just take that list and you just shoot a blast and say, hey, we could use all the help we could get, and you'll be surprised. I think you'll be surprised of how many are willing. They have the resources. They just don't maybe realize that you could use their help. Joel, you're up next, sir.
Afternoon, everybody. Enjoying everybody's thoughts. To who asked about that? To John's question, the VR is awesome. I had a really good time with it. If anything, honestly, it really frustrated me that my team wasn't more interested in it because I played around with it at the house and I'm like, I don't bought my own VR headset just so I could do it. It was a blast, but again, just kind of didn't get the interest level from them that I was hoping for. But It's funny as we talk about it, it's kind of I think it reminds me that we're all just kind of dealing with those same issues because it's like we talk about the lack of trainers and we talk about how spread thin we are, and we talk through like, well, how do we spread ourselves out good across that? But it's like the real issue is just that we are spread too thin. We are covering areas that are too big, and the companies are not putting the emphasis on training. It's you shouldn't be. Again, like Adrian, I'm in a role now where I have a nice tight little portfolio right in Atlanta. But prior to that, I was covering 3 states. I had 70 assets. In no time to do anything, to do any training, no structured training program. It was like figure it out, and you're trying to find time on weekends and evenings to try and throw this stuff together. And so, but the real reality was is that that company didn't value training. That wasn't where they were putting their time, and so we're kind of trying to force it and make it work. But the real problem is selling the value of training to your companies, to upper leadership, helping them really see what is that and what's that ROI, what's their return on that investment. Because until we really get that buy-in at that level, we're always going to be fighting a losing battle. Other point was on career paths. One thing that I have been really stressing to, especially my service managers, and I say it lightly because I recognize that it's almost pushing away from the industry sometimes, but it's not a linear path in a lot of cases. And I've got a lot of service managers that want to be regionals or think that they want to be regionals, but I know the guys. I do work closely enough with them because my portfolio is smaller. They would hate that job. They don't really want to deal with personalities. They don't really want to deal with issues. They want to be technical. They want to be hands-on. They want to be on site. They don't want to sit at the computer. They don't want to do emails. It's like you would hate being a regional, but you just don't know it. And because so many people have told you that's the next step, that's how you make more money, that's how you get this next title, you want to be a regional. And so a lot of them, I really encourage them, like this is a career, and it's not a linear path. And there's a lot of people that spend this time and experience that we spend in this industry into something else. There's a lot of, my mentor that was as a service manager for 25 years threw his back out and all of a sudden couldn't be a service manager anymore. So he ended up pivoting into sales. So he's with HD now. He uses all that skill to go visit, he's a field rep to go visit service managers, tell them, hey, this is how you keep your shop inventoried. Why are you putting in 10 orders for the same things every month? Order 15 of them at the beginning. Here's your history. So there's a lot of different ways that we can pivot. So I see people kind of get the service manager and get frustrated. But there's other outlets there. So I really encourage my guys to kind of think about what they really enjoy, what they're passionate about, and figure out where that would lead them. And sometimes it is, in a different direction. And last thing, and I'll hand it back off. I am building out our training program now. And one of the things when we mentioned about mentorship, one of the things that I'm trying to do is really foster the guys that do want to grow. And not just from the training side, but also from the people that want to train. So I've really been opening that up. Every time that I've had a class, one of the ones that we just recently had that was really successful was a pool class. I had a service manager that reached out and offered to do it on his property. And so rather than me just teaching the class like I was planning on doing, I did involve him and said, hey, well, this is how we build out this curriculum. This is how we need, hey, this is a structured thing. This isn't just you having some guys come over and we'll just talk about some stuff. Like, no, you need to have exactly what we're going to cover because we're going to have to do this class 3 times and you're going to have to understand, cover that same information. I mean, it went great, and I really saw his kind of, his excitement as he was teaching it. And so, now that has kind of built out another person. And so as I kind of go through the different topics, I'm trying to identify those service managers, who's good at electrical, who's good at HVAC, to really let them get involved and get some experience on the training side, but also kind of build them up as mentors. And that also makes the teams that have gone through those classes comfortable going to them with questions as well. So it doesn't all have to just flow through me. So kind of what I'm working on now when it comes to that. But again, that big one, people they want that next step, and we need to provide them with some sort of guidance, but sometimes just pointing them at the next job is not setting them up for success.
Well, maybe it's a different next job, right? Not the director level. And you're making a great point. I think clarity is so important, right? In what is the job, what is the next job, and if we're doing a better job at like mapping out all the positions, what does it take to get to get from A to B to C and D, I think that it's actually extremely helpful. Like I was saying earlier, we don't operate in the dark, and a lot of times it's not just that. It's not a linear, it's not a vertical type of I guess path. You mentioned a couple of great ones, amazing ones. I could just say from my past experience, a couple of other things we did, right? Let's just create like a training position. We could create a training position. It doesn't have to be people think, well, we can absorb that at a corporate level. Now, when you think about like how much payroll you have available, do your staff shortages, that payroll is actually available. You could create those positions without actually adding payroll to your corporate. You just have to have one person that's like very good at like managing that particular individual, knowing where to send them and how find a way how to allocate their salary and their benefits, which honestly like that's not such a huge thing to overcome. That could be worked out within an organization. But you have so many open positions, some of that payroll could be allocated where you have open positions. So here's, besides just the trainer, I hire like floorers just based on they weren't allocated to corporate. I hired three floorers: a floor service technician, a floor service manager, and an HVAC specialist. And they all were managed by me as a director of maintenance. And I was sending them to the properties that had the heaviest workload or they had the staff shortages. So all in all, it wasn't a burden to the corporate payroll. And I was able to sell this to my company at the time, to my employer. So, great examples, Joel. I hope that, my examples help too. Mike.
I was gonna say, I've got floaters that I send out. I've got four of them. Not every one of them can train a new supervisor that starts with us, but each one of them have their specialties, and depending on what's going on and the need of that asset, that's where I send them to, basically like you was talking about. I think that's important because they can also train that supervisor or the technician that they're working with on site to be able to continue to create that training. But it is difficult because you can't hit everywhere all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. Mike, I wanted to bring something up from Jonathan. A previous comment. I know he's not available to be on camera, so I'm just gonna read his comment because I think this is also extremely important for us to think about. And although we're not gonna be able to cover it during this conversation, it ties to a presentation we had like a month ago. Jonathan said here, before we tackle optimal maintenance uh, hierarchy and training, we need to be able to convince owners and investors that career growth programs, let alone maintenance at all, is a direct driver of long-term NOI rather than a cost center. So, Jonathan, I was just reading your comment. I probably heard me. So
Yes.
I think that's important. Would you like to elaborate on this point? Because I think it's very, very important. It's essential, right? If we're just building this echo chamber here and we talk amongst ourselves, but this message doesn't get to the ownership group and asset management, it we're not going to be able to affect change. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and the more I think about it, it's like, okay, let's say we have maintenance leaders within an organization that have the financial wherewithal to bring this forward and present a good case. Are we even in a position to do that? Like, in some cases, these human resources would be controlling our staffing, and in other cases it would be whoever's controlling the profit and loss would be the person to go through. See, we, depending on your organization, you really got to nail down who you need to talk to in order to implement these programs and really bring the numbers, which I think uh, AI is going to help us and hurt us in two ways here, because one, now these maintenance leaders have this powerful tool where they can calculate all this out and put forward a good case. And best case scenario, you have the leaders that are controlling this profit and loss using AI to, validate this information and go, hey, yeah, this is how we, maximize our FFO or stabilize it over time. But then you're also going to have managers that go, I don't care. I'm going to use this AI to maximize short-term gains and to heck with the rest. So it's that's the kind of where we're at, but we're not going to get any money for this training hierarchy or sorry for the role hierarchy and the training without buy-in from the executive level. That I guess this is where private owners have the advantage of really maximizing their brand through maintenance, but in larger companies it's a much tougher sell.
Yeah, I'll love for you to reach out, any of you, right, that might want to do a presentation on how do we actually sell this particular item, right? I should say, particular topic to the ownership groups. And especially, we have folks that do third-party management here. And that's even a tougher proposition, right? How do you convince your clients to pay for, something like this, for some training, for some retention tools? I'm just gonna leave it at this because we're almost up on time. But just some food for thought. 47 years old is the average age of a maintenance technician in our industry today. 10 years ago was 40 years old. So our population, our tech population, have aged 7 years in the past decade. If we're going at this rate, imagine what would be the age 10 years from now, and is anybody left at that point? So I think this would be a good way to kind of like bring perspective. And I love to make our meetings as constructive and as solution oriented as we can. And that's the reason why we're meeting every other week. I love for you all to reach out in between our meetings and kind of share thoughts, initiatives, things like I just learned about, John's initiative. John, I love for us to work on a future presentation about your program because it seems like, this is a industry need, right? To build those programs and build those career ladders for our maintenance personnel. And maybe we could make that, we could share that in a future presentation, so to make it helpful for others, and also in the form of a document as well, for as much as John is willing or allowed to share on a group. I want to thank you all again for a great call today, for contributing. 2 weeks from now, we're meeting again. I'd love for you to reach out and share some topics that you wanna see discussed during the meetings, topics that you want to present on. Again, by no means I want this to be Adrian's anything. It's ours, and it's our industry, and we all super passionate about it. And I'm very grateful for having you showing every other week here, and I hope you're finding this helpful. Have an amazing rest of the day and rest of the week, and see you all in a couple of weeks.